Yeah, I want to talk about phases now. From the off season to in season to post season or post when the season ends
Mm.
mentally. I think mental training, and this is something that I never learned. I was never taught. Quite frankly, it's nobody's fault. It's we're seeing evolving studies. We're seeing the study of the brain, and we're hyper focused on more mental health now, just as a society in general. I'm not
Mhm.
sure you had that same type of training either, but you had so much physical training in the preseason, so much physical training in the off season. What about mental training? How do we get our minds ready to push away those negative thoughts, because it's inevitable that they're going to come. Those negative thoughts, they happen. It's going Nobody is positive 100% of the time, and if they tell you that, they're inauthentic and they're lying, kids. I hate to tell you, okay?
Yep.
But how do we get our minds prepared as athletes? We've heard Tom Brady say it before, and we've actually heard Bryce Harper say it before, talking about getting their minds right and mentally being prepared for the season. How do you mentally prepare to push away negative thoughts in the off season and really lay that groundwork?
Sure. I think it's interesting because we have. I did get exposed to mental training when I was in high school, and I think that was honestly that was the biggest thing that set me apart when I got to college because so many of my teammates had not, and that was a testament to my hitting coach Rob Cruz and my mentor Bridget Quimpo, who was just fortunate enough to be in the area. So talk about like it makes up for any talent gap. It made up for the gap that you could play in the Northeast and then not be able to compete at that high level. So I guess what I'm getting at is so many times we think the physical training is the most important thing, but when we get to a certain age, the limiting factor is that mental performance. So certainly discussing it with my mentors, discussing it with my coaches, working through different conversations, tough conversations, like dealing with that, those are all, I think, sparking where an athlete should be guided. And, because not every athlete is going to need the same mental performance. Not every athlete is going to have the same anxiety. So I think when you can start to identify, okay, we're gonna go down this path with this athlete and really work on confidence. We're gonna go down this path and really work on failure recovery. Um, it all stems back to just being as present as humanly possible. Our brain can time travel to the future and the past. We can think of the future if we can think of the past, but our body's stuck in the present. So how can we create tactics to be as present as possible? Um, One thing I'll have athletes work in the off season on, or really preseason, is we're trying to identify their swing thoughts. So we're trying to identify maybe 2 or 3 productive phrases that they can have as they're in the batter's box. So it should be positive, it should be repeatable, and it probably shouldn't be focused on their body. It should be more of an external cue, meaning we don't want an athlete saying, okay, uh, uh, I'm trying to think, like palm up to the ball, maybe like that's almost like they're thinking of their body when they should be focusing on the ball type thing. So we might do things like crush it, crush it, crush it. I'm going to hit this ball. I'm going to hit this ball. I'm going to hit this ball up the middle, up the middle, up the middle, sweet spot, sweet spot, sweet spot. So it's something that's short and sweet. It's positive. It's a little bit repeatable. And the idea is that we want to get that cycling in their head on repeat so that when they get in a game and they have a negative self thought, it kind of bounces off that swing thought. And it's the same idea as if you got a song stuck in your head. If you had some type of song stuck in
Oh,
your
it's the
head
worst.
right. And someone's like, hey, you know that other song? And you're like, no, I don't. I can't even think of anything else because I got this one song stuck in my head. That is what we're trying to work on in that preseason. And we're trying to identify what works because you're going to have to test out a bunch of different ones. And then you'll have those for your in season. And then I really think postseason is just evaluating. So sorry, I know that was a super long winded answer, but there are so many different levels to identifying that.